This is For the Creators. Welcome back to For the Creators. Today we sit down with Mary Alice Stack, Chief Executive of Creative United. Creative United is an entrepreneurial community interest company committed to supporting the growth and development of the arts and creative industries. The vision is for artists, creative enterprises and cultural organisations to have access to the skills, advice and services they need to achieve their ambitions for growth and impact within their communities. Mary Alice studied at the Falmouth School of Art and at the Courtauld Institute, with her background and professional expertise being firmly rooted in the visual arts. She's also very passionate about theatre and poetry, having spent many years working with small theatre companies both as an actor and director. I met Mary Alice a few years ago when I pitched my production company to her, which she helped fund. This conversation is all about the balance between being a creative and being a business person. It's a very difficult dance for most creatives, but one we must all do to succeed. Mary Alice gives many tips on how to approach your creativity as a business, how to make a living while making your art, and why making an actionable plan to ensure you can continue to create and thrive is a great idea. In short, being a struggling artist is romanticised, but it really isn't necessary. We think you'll get a lot of takeaways from today's episode. For those ready to make a living from your art, get your notepads out. And please enjoy our sit down with Mary Alice Stack. So welcome to the show, Mary Alice.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm very well.
Good. Really glad to have you here, especially since when we first crossed paths, I was pitching to you.
You were.
So it's good to have you.
In a high pressure interview situation,
yes.
and the tables have been turned.
Yeah. Get to pay my, what do they call it? Get your own back.
Get your own back. But it was a good outcome for you.
Was a really
so,
good outcome.
Don't be too hard on me.
Exactly.
Yeah?
No, I won't. I'll definitely be kind. Just to dial back a bit, how did you get into art in the first place? Was you encouraged as a child?
Yeah, I mean, I think very early on at primary school, I enjoyed painting and drawing. I remember when I left primary school, I remember one of my teachers saying to me, "Oh, you will finish that drawing, won't you?" I'd started some kind of drawing, and they'd, that my teacher very much wanted me to finish my drawing because she could see it was, had something about it, and I was definitely encouraged at primary school to take part in painting and drawing and creating things. It was part of what everyone did. I wasn't singled out. Everyone was doing it, but I remember thinking I had a bit of a flair for it. Mm-hmm. And then into secondary school, I guess it was just natural to continue doing arts subjects. But interestingly, my background, or rather my influences in life, come both from art and also from theatre. So,
I was going to ask about it.
So my mum and my grandma and my aunt all studied acting. So they were all at one point involved in theatre.
Yeah.
My claim to fame, can I share you my claim to fame? Is that my grandma appears in a Hitchcock film called The Lady Vanishes, which is one of Hitchcock's most well-known films. So
was she a main character, or?
No, she's not a main character, but she does have a line or two, maybe a line and a half. So anyway, my grandma, who was Dutch and came over to Britain in the 1920s, was an actress, wanted to be an actress, and she ended up in doing a few films, and then both my mum and my aunt also studied drama.
Wow.
But my dad was into visual arts, so he had a real passion for contemporary art, and he was Australian. Mm. So my dad moved to Europe in the 1960s because the contemporary art scene in Australia was actually really very small. There wasn't much in the way of contemporary art, and I think he felt he would be more connected with what was happening in the art scene in Europe,
Yeah.
and so that's why he came.
I wonder
to
how
Europe.
it worked at that time in terms of, I mean, hearing about a contemporary or
Yeah.
any scene now is quite easy, but back in 1960, hearing about London or
Yeah,
UK
I
must
mean,
have been.
yeah, I mean, who knows? I'm not quite sure what inspired him to make the move originally, but anyway, he ended up in Europe, and he ended up then in London eventually, and he worked in a number of museums and galleries, including the ICA, the Institute for Contemporary Art, and Wemmer's Gallery, which was quite a big dealer at the time. So I think I had in my family background quite a lot of artistic influence, and that, I know, it's sort of I wasn't pushed into it, but you kind of take those things with you, and I was supported to do whatever interested me. So that's kind of how it went. And I was lucky enough to be at a school in Cornwall. So I was brought up in London, and then we moved to Cornwall when I was 11.
What was
So
that like?
that was a bit of a change.
Yeah.
So going from being an inner city kid to
Yeah.
being a rural kid,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like that.
on the coast.
Yeah, it was it was very, very different, but I was at a good school, I think, or rather, I don't know if it was good or bad, but it was school, and I quite enjoyed it, and I came out the other end with some. Yeah, I was also another first. I was the very first year to do GCSEs in this country.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
What were they called before?
they were called CSEs,
CSEs, yeah.
and I think there might have been another word as well, another name for it.
I remember my mum speaking of like O levels.
O levels, sorry,
Yeah.
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
O levels and CSEs,
Yeah.
and then it became No, you know what? That's complete nonsense. CSEs must have been connected with GCSEs. It was O levels.
O levels, yeah.
O levels. Anyway, I was the first year that got onto the new system, and.
So new town, new system.
New town, new system. So yeah, and so at that school, I was able to take part in lots and lots of theatre productions. I loved it. You know, I was always doing theatre, and I also made. I designed sets for some of the school plays, and I really got into singing. So I did play a musical instrument for the first few years. I played the flute, but then I really, singing was my thing really, rather than playing an instrument, and
So was
that
it
stayed with
musical
me.
theatre?
Yeah, so we did lots of musicals, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. So, but I didn't really consider it as a career option, theatre. And then,
Even though your mum...
I know, even though they
grandmother-
hadn't done it, but and my sister trained as a dancer, so she'd gone kind of into performing arts.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think as I said, I had a real passion for the arts, but also I was quite able academically, and I decided to just go the art history route, and then of course I regretted it, and I thought, oh no, I should have gone to drama school. That's what I was thinking halfway through my art history degree, is that it would have been a lot more fun to have done drama. But we
Sure.
did do a production while I was at college. We did a production of The Provoked Wife by Vanbrugh, which is kind of restoration comedy. So I did get to do a little bit of theatre, and anyway, to answer your question in a more succinct way, the arts have been very much present in my life from an early age, and I've been lucky enough to have a go at lots of different things and to maintain the things that I enjoyed in both professional and amateur projects. You know, I've always had a hand in doing something that I liked and enjoyed, even if it wasn't in my day job. So
Yes.
yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And what did you find? Did you excel in the academic side? That's why you leant more towards...
You know what? I
doing
think
that?
actually, I don't think I excelled, and I'm not that academic. It's just I think I knew how to kind of apply myself
Right.
in, to a certain level. But actually, during my degree, I think I I kind of knew I didn't want to go into a kind of an academic field. I knew that I wasn't going to do an MA.
Right.
I wasn't going to go into a sort of an academic or museum type role, because it just wasn't for me. But thinking back, at the point that I decided to go the art history route, I think what actually happened is that I lost confidence in my artistic ability, and the academic route was an easier, safer, less challenging one for me. And then when I was there and in it, I was like, oh, I don't think I'm that good. I think actually maybe I should have been walking the more dangerous path, but the more exciting and challenging one for me, that I could have maybe risen to that challenge. And I couldn't rise to the challenge academically because my ability was only that far.
Right.
And maybe artistically, had I been a bit more confident in what I might have achieved as a painter or as an artist, maybe life would have been very different. I don't know. But, you make choices based on how you feel at the time and on the doors that open. You go, oh, well, go that route.
Well, of course, exactly. And you can't go back in time like that.
No,
either.
no.
So, did you find that the challenges in your degree, when it got really challenging, it's like, oh, if I knew it was going to be this challenging, I might as well have just done the other part, because it was going to be as challenging.
It wasn't so much that. I think maybe it was to do with a sense of enjoyment.
Right.
I think what really we all need something that kind of inspires us and makes us get a bit of a buzz. Well, not all of us. Maybe some people don't. But I knew what the adrenaline buzz felt like from performance.
Yeah.
And you just don't get that from writing an essay, or I don't.
Yeah.
And that's what I really missed. I missed the sort of interaction and the social and the maybe just the more social and expressive side of doing a play or putting an exhibition together, or doing something that involved me applying my sense of space and personality and ability to engage, rather than sat in a library composing my thoughts in writing. And it was a combination of the challenge and the reward. Yeah, so you'll go for a challenge, you'll meet that challenge if there's a reward at the end. But if you attempt the challenge, but at the end you don't really feel that you've had the reward, it's like, oh. Yeah,
because with performance, there's that element of immediate feedback.
Absolutely.
And that's where the adrenaline comes from. That's where the buzz comes from. And it's just, there's no feeling like it when you're performing. I suppose you get that in sports as well. Yeah. Because it's literally, there's a start and end point, and whatever you do right now, there's people watching, and you're getting that immediate feedback. And
you're in the moment.
You're in the moment, exactly. And I suppose that's the essence of life, really, because that's what we will try to be is in the moment. And when you're performing, you're truly in the moment, because to do a good performance, you really have to be there. You can't be distracted.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is that, of course, I think had I gone down the route of being a painter, I'm not sure I would have had the benefit of that buzz either, because that can be a pretty solitary profession, actually, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have enjoyed that either. But what I do regret is that I used to spend a lot of time observing the world in terms of trying to translate what I see onto paper or into paint, and I've lost the sort of hand-eye coordination. I now find it very difficult, to concentrate for long enough to really kind of get something down, and B, whatever talent I had, I really kind of think, I can't quite do it anymore.
Do you think that's just a matter of practice?
Yes. Yeah, yes. So if I applied myself and
Yeah.
I really practice now, but I would have to put in the hours. And they do say this about any discipline. If you put in the hours, you're going to acquire a level of skill that, will to the untrained person appear impressive because
Exactly.
you've put in the hours and
Yeah.
you get the results. And that goes for anything, I guess. But
And also that you once had it. So
yes,
it's just a
you
matter
know
of
it's
digging.
there.
Yeah.
You know it's there. And I do. Like many people, my time is under a lot of pressure these days, and it's hard to carve out that quiet time and space to go, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm not going to answer the doorbell.
Yes.
I'm not going to do anything except that singular activity. And you do need to be very disciplined and singular in your focus, I think, particularly for drawing and painting and an art form of that kind. It always amazes me how my colleagues manage to listen to music and write at the same time. I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I need dead silence. It doesn't make me very popular. I'm like, turn that noise off. I need to concentrate.
I'm similar because obviously I'm from the music world. So,
Yeah.
But literally, if music's on, I can't think of anything else. It stops my thoughts in its
Yeah.
tracks.
And you know why partly that is for me? It's because I want to sing along. I'm like, I hear it and I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm off and
Yeah.
if I'm enjoying the music, I'm in the music. I
Yes.
can't have it as just a background thing.
No. So that's quite a good parallel, it being a background thing. Because how do you, although you're working in the creative industries, how do you yourself stay creative?
I actually, that is another frustration, is that quite often I feel that I'm not being very creative. I feel that I've gone too far to the other side, I mean, I am in an administrative management kind of role. But
And by administrative and management, you mean chief exec?
yes. Yes, I'm management and administration and power.
Power, yeah.
Yeah, I have power with it. No, I mean, these days I get my creative kicks through involvement in projects on a kind of amateur or semi-professional but kind of part-time basis. So I dip in and out when I can in things that don't require too much time commitment. This is a problem, is that, so for theatre, where I would love to do more theatre, but I split my time between London and Hastings now, so I'm also having to contend with being in two places. And
Yes, yeah.
I know if you're directing a play, you've got to have your cast present. You can't have someone say, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not in London on the Saturday. I can't."
Yeah.
So to be fair to whoever I would be working with, I can't really commit to those sorts of rehearsal schedules. But that doesn't mean I don't do anything at all. And I sing regularly in a group on a Saturday.
Oh, cool.
I mean, a group. We're a very a very casual group of singers. So we get together. We're led by a rather wonderful musician called Claire Hamill, who is very generous and with her time and her enthusiasm. She gives us a lot more credit, I think, than we deserve. But we perform just locally as the Sage Mavericks, if anyone's
Sage
interested.
Mavericks.
But please don't be harsh in your your appraisal of our singing. It's about the enjoyment of singing together, and
There is
we
something
do
about that, honestly, because I grew up singing in groups.
Yeah.
So I grew up singing in mid '90s, and for us, we looked up to all of the R&B boy groups basically. And there is just something about, because you can sing on your own, but when you sing in a group and you're harmonizing and stuff,
That's great.
I don't know, there's just an awesome feeling about that.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. There's something about the process of singing. Maybe it's just you take deeper breaths and you get more oxygen through your system. I don't know what it is, but I get a huge buzz from being in that group, and just for an hour and a half, and you feel great afterwards.
Yeah.
And
you're
sometimes we even sound okay, that's quite unusual as well, because in terms of singing, I've probably my natural place is to sing alto. but I sing low. I sing with the lows in that group
Oh,
because
really?
I can, I can sing low, and I can hold the line, the bass line, as it were. And some people find it easier to be just in singing the tune.
Yeah.
And it's nice because we all have our slots. We all have our little bit.
Yeah.
And
is it a group of 3 or 4?
no, sometimes there's 15 of us. It's very, very casual.
Okay,
So we
wow.
come, it's really,
Yeah.
it's a casual sort of arrangement. And there are a few people who are very regular, and it's nice, just
Yeah.
nice, sociable.
Social, exactly like what you said before.
Yeah.
Being sociable, getting that immediate feedback from the audience, and just doing something that you love. So you are doing that a lot.
I'm trying to stay creative.
Yeah.
And my other great joy is that my job brings me into contact with hundreds and hundreds of creative people every year. And I have huge admiration for all of those people because they're doing it. They're making things. They are bringing their vision into reality and sharing it with us. It's a real gift if you have a creative talent and you can share that with other people by making things, making sound, making something visual, writing, whatever it is. It's a real gift, and everyone who has that gift or thinks they might develop that should be encouraged to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, we because we on this podcast we speak with lots of different creators, and some people that are behind the scenes who consider themselves not to be in quote unquote creative roles, but we've always said that creativity is the act of making something from nothing.
Yes.
So you've got a blank canvas or a piece of paper, or you walk into a studio, there's no sound, you walk out and you have a song. It's that process is just incredible, which is why we're here. And then I suppose as well as in your role, you're meeting creatives at different points of their journey and helping them blossom into something. So it's almost like a blank canvas, and then getting a painting.
Most of the artists that we work with, they're already working. I mean, they're producing stuff. They kind of know where they're at in terms of how they want to create, what they're creating. But one of the things that is very challenging about forging a career in the arts is that the impulse to create, the inspiration to create, is one thing, but then there's the application of that creativity in a business context.
Yes.
So how do you actually then make a living out of what you make? And so that's really where Creative United is trying to help, is helping creative entrepreneurs and artists and other people involved in the arts and creative industries to balance the impulse to create work with the challenges and realities of then making that work as a business, in terms of financing it, selling or acquiring customers, or whatever the method of growing the business is, so that you can create more. What we don't want to do is to make people focus exclusively on business, and we don't assume for a minute that every artist is an entrepreneur, but every artist needs to understand what the market is for their work.
Yeah.
And it's also okay to say my work has no market, but then you need to have independent means to survive, or you need to combine it with a day job where you split your time and you say, well, this is the stuff I do for me, and this is the stuff I do for someone else. But in an ideal world, I think most creatives would like to be able to live through producing their work and finding an audience, and really that's what we're there to try and facilitate, is to help people develop the business skills that they need to meet those dual challenges. And yes, as I said, most of the people who we come into contact with are already quite advanced in terms of understanding what their product or service is. It's then just how do you sustain that? How do you grow it? How do you make it work in a way that allows you to continue to support a family, have the lifestyle that you need and want, and produce your best work.
That's the thing, because there's so many variables that come along the way that can kind of knock you sideways. And the impulse is to keep creating. Do you get it where creatives kind of misunderstand that although you're in a creative field, there is a business here? And do they kind of lean more towards, no, I don't want to worry about any of that because that's going to distract from my creativity? How do you address that?
Yeah, I don't think this is unique to creatives, actually.
Okay.
I think many people running enterprises of all sorts have areas of the business that they would rather not have to do.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a bit like life generally. There's just bits of it that you go, oh, really? It's a struggle. Health and safety, or the laundry, or whatever the thing is. There's the thing that you don't really want to do. And for creatives, I think that the most common tension is between protecting the time that you need to make your work and to allow your ideas to come through, and to not be distracted or burdened by the bits that are not creative. And there is a tension between the things that you have to do and should do, and then the things that you need to do in order to produce the work. One of the things that very often comes up is people underestimating the value of a business plan. Why do I need one of those? I don't need one of those. It's just a chore, and it doesn't represent anything of value to me, therefore I don't need to do it. Now, the problem with that is that your world and your work makes complete sense to you, but you do need to find a way of articulating that in written form for the benefit of someone else.
Yeah.
And the someone else that you're sharing it with then needs to also explain it to someone else. Exactly. And someone else. And so the document, and it doesn't need to be a boring document, but the document needs to contain key information and needs to reflect properly what your aspiration is. And as I said, it's not the case that every artist needs a business plan, because not every artist is aspiring to be an enterprise, to function as a business. But even so, as an artist, it's helpful to think, who am I producing this stuff for? Who do I want to be aware of it? And in an ideal world, what would they do with it once they got it? So I'm producing all this wonderful stuff. Does it matter to me if no one ever hears it or sees it? Or does it matter? And if more people heard it and saw it and enjoyed it, and I got paid for it, what else could I do? So it's about setting your ambition more than anything. Yeah. And your ambition can be anything. Your ambition could be, I want to produce another 15 pieces of music or paintings, or I want to produce one amazing piece of design that becomes world renowned. That's my ambition. That's what I'm aspiring for. And you can pursue that ambition without having to have a business plan per se, but you've articulated your ambition. And someone, if you were to give that ambition to someone like me, I could maybe craft that into a business plan. I could say, aha, I see what Ryan's trying to do here. This is his vision. That's very powerful. Now, what are the steps along the way that's going to help him achieve that? And who will he need around him to make that happen? And how long will it take? And what are the things that are going to stop him? And who else is pursuing the same objective and might get there first if they have the advantage of fewer obstacles and more support? So you've got to understand what you're up against in terms of competition, and you've got to be singular in your vision and your aspiration. And critically, you've got to have the right people around you, because this is another big challenge for creatives.
Yeah.
It's quite often, it's all about you. You know, it's your creative essence that is producing the goods.
Yes.
And there's only one of you. And one of the particular challenges in the creative sector is this notion of scaling. You can't scale you.
Yeah, that's right.
What you can do is you can commercialize your output in such a way that you're able to share it with more people. So you can, well, if you're in the recording industry, the medium you're using is very shareable. So that allows you to build a following, and people become aware of your work without you having to hand produce 50 million copies of your
Yeah, exactly.
CD. So depending on your medium, there are ways of scaling, but there's a limit to how many songs you can write. There's a limit to how much you can produce as an artist. And so the factors that will impact and influence the scaling of a business that is not creative, that is more formulaic, or work that the business works on reproducing something like McDonald's, you know, the franchise model. You can't, well, some people can maybe, but you can't really franchise an artist, because it immediately becomes not them, and therefore not authentic and not credible.
And that's what people are buying into.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
And in the visual arts, it's all about the kind of rarity value. It's unique, singular. No one else has got that. It's mine. And therefore the price is high, relatively high.
And then goes up in value.
And it can go up in value. So the only thing that's kind of perhaps plays against that a little is the power of big brands. So quite often when people talk to me about the art market and how, you know, what's comparable to the art market, and that, you know, the closest way of sort of looking at parallels is, I suppose, luxury goods. Yeah. But the interesting thing is that luxury goods are built on quality and brand. So the price of a expensive handbag.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to think of a brand. How terrible is that? I'm okay.
Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton, excellent. Yeah. One of those. There's a recommended retail price for that, which is pretty high in my humble opinion. When I see the price of some handbags, I'm shocked. Yeah. But people are confident in that value because there's an acceptance globally that a Louis Vuitton bag costs £2,000. Whereas when you're looking at an original piece of art, no matter that is completely unique and there won't ever be another one like that, people's sense of value is different because they kind of thought, how do I... Who says it's £2,000? And
there you go, yeah.
Why would I pay that? Because I've got nothing to benchmark it against, and I'm therefore suspicious, or I just don't quite get it. So so this challenge of scale, and very, very few artists are able to demand prices that those artists who have achieved brand recognition, if we can be as crude as that. So an artist like Tracey Emin now has brand value attached to her work. Right. So that means that people are more understanding of why a piece of work would cost so much, because she's kind of become very visible and very known. And
why do you think that is, that they become visible and known? Why some artists become visible and known and some don't? Well,
this is very complicated, and it's about how particular artists become recognised and endorsed through a sort of industry. How do we put it? It's a sort of an adoption of particular artists within the art world that elevates them above others, and this is the sort of interplay between commercial markets and institutions, where if an artist has been recognised and exhibited in particular galleries, then they're kind of their status gets moved up because they're being recognised within the professional art world as being important. But it's a really complicated area and not easy for someone to understand who's outside of that endorsement cycle. Why is it that Tracey Emin has become a sort of superstar artist, whereas 1,000 artists who are of the same age and the same background, nothing has happened to them. They've become invisible.
Do you think it's because people buy into the story?
It's a combination of, in her case, maybe her personality has had a part to play.
Right.
She has used her personal history and personality as part of her art, and that's another very interesting aspect of her story, her journey. But it isn't always the case. Sometimes an artist just does well because their work is fantastic, and people respond to it. I mean, that's the best way of becoming a world famous artist is to produce world-class art, and that people go, oh my word, that is just incredible. And so every story is different, every artist's journey is different, and part of my job is encouraging people to trust their instincts and to value when they see a piece of work that they love or that they just are gripped by, for something connects, is to not say, oh my God, how much?
Right.
But to say, okay, this is really interesting work, and someone's made that, someone's conceived that piece of work uniquely, and I've got an opportunity to make that mine and to make that part of my history and own that and be with it, not just in passing, but to have it in my home.
Yeah, and it's unique. What's funny about that is that, just to paint it back to the handbag example, is that these handbags are made in the millions.
In the millions.
But yet people have the same value system based on those bags, even though they're not unique. Not everyone's going to buy them because of the price tag, granted, but let's say Louis Vuitton had a mad sale, 80% off, and then everyone started to get them. Would people then want it? So it's really weird. So maybe it's about not so much the story that the bag is telling, but what that says about them sometimes.
Yes, and of course, let's not forget that Louis Vuitton is a fashion house, and a fashion house is full of creatives, and there is creative value in those bags. It's just the commercial market in which that brand is propelled, and the value system that is around fashion, handbags, has a particular way of working. And so people who I suppose I am surprised that certain people would be perfectly comfortable paying that kind of money for a handbag, but would question the value of buying a piece of art. And I'm the reverse. I spend far too much money on buying art and no money on handbags. And so I'm it's my constant challenge is to try and convert a few of the handbag buyers into some art buyers. And maybe one day someone's going to convince me to buy a handbag.
Wow. So typically, we were just speaking about this, but typically artists do find it hard to grasp business. How did you discover your knack for business?
Well, I fell into this niche area. I think it's a niche area. Rather by accident, and I didn't know that I would find it so interesting. So really my first passion in professional life was around the impact of the arts in a healthcare setting. So I worked for 10 years for a charity called Paintings in Hospitals, and that was my first opportunity to kind of think about what role does art have in a public space, in an environment where people are being cared for, or people are having to work in very challenging conditions that can have an impact on their health and well-being. To be a nurse in an accident and emergency unit is stressful, and so the environment in which you're having to work, or maybe the space in which you take a break, these things are kind of interesting and important. And then I ended up working at the Arts Council. I was hired to develop this scheme called Own Art, and that particular initiative wasn't about artwork in a public environment. It was about taking artwork into your home environment. So it was about ownership of art.
Oh, okay.
And the scheme itself is based around what's known as consumer credit or retail finance. So when if you moved into a new flat and you were thinking you need a sofa, you go to a well-known furniture store and you will see interest-free credit terms plastered all over the wall, and you wouldn't think twice. It's the same if you went to buy a car. Credit terms are absolutely part and parcel of the retail environment, but not so in contemporary art galleries. And so the concept was really to use a very common finance product that exists in other retail environments, bring that into the contemporary art space, and to see whether that would be a good means of helping reduce the finance barrier for people who might be interested in buying art, but for whom £1,000 was just impossible up front. But £100 a month might work. So
interesting you say this, because we had an artist on recently, and there's one bit of art that he has at an exhibition. And I said, it's a shame that's gone there, because I really love that. I'd love to make that mine. He said, no, it's just at I think it's at a bar in South London, but it's just there for a while. You can have it. I said, well, yeah, that's the deal. And he told me the price, and he said, no, you don't have to pay like up front. We can do it on a monthly basis. And I was like, that's a really good idea. Yeah, that makes it so much more accessible.
So that was the actually very simple concept of the scheme, is that buying on credit, spreading the cost, interest-free. You're never paying more than the advertised price, but you're just allowing yourself a bit of time to do it. So it's actually very straightforward. Anyway, the way the scheme is structured is based on this consumer credit principles, and that is a regulated industry. Who knew? I didn't know. It wasn't my world. I'd never taken out a loan agreement for anything, and this was all new.
Did you present this idea to the Arts Council?
No, I was hired in to develop the scheme. So someone else had done the hard work and worked out how this should be, and they'd kind of got all the bits, and they'd got the elements together to make the scheme viable. And then I was hired to actually implement it, make it work, grow it, and explore it, how to develop it further. So my first introduction to this notion of using different forms of finance to help grow a business. So from the gallery's point of view, offering the finance deal is a way of selling more work. It's a way of growing your sales, acquiring more customers, and helping the artists to sell more work, or sell work of a higher value than they might otherwise be able to sell. So the scheme is actually delivered as a service to the business, as a service to the gallery, but the beneficiary is both the artist who's managed to sell another piece of work and the customer who's got a piece of work on affordable payment terms. So there's a sort of virtuous circle of beneficiaries. But it was my first introduction into the world of consumer credit and the world of trying to understand the relationship between artistic production and commercial processes and demands. And I found it very interesting. And over the last 15 years, since I started on that, I have become something of a specialist in understanding the use of alternative forms of finance, so loan finance and consumer credit, and other ways of looking at how to grow a business in the absence of cash, or rather I should say, how to get your hands on the right kind of money to achieve the right kind of outcome. So as I said, I worked at the Arts Council. Now, the Arts Council's main means of stimulating the market, or rather developing the sector, I should say, is through issuing grants. So
Right.
grants are a form of finance, and they're very effective, and you can achieve a lot with grants. But sometimes a grant isn't necessarily the best tool for achieving a business outcome. Why? Because it isn't structured in the right way. So grants are really brilliant for research and development, where you don't yet know how you're going to take that product forward.
Yeah.
But at the point that you do know how you're going to take it forward, or how you want to take it forward, sometimes loan finance can bring a rigour to your thought process and to your assumptions around how to get a return. Yeah, so
It forces you to be a bit more
forces you to
business
think
savvy.
about, how will I pay this back, and who is going to buy my product or service, and what is my margin? Because if you can't answer those questions, you're not going to be able to repay it, and either your business is going to fail because you haven't got the right structure, the right model, or you shouldn't be running a business with that product. Either I'm not quite sure I've summarised that quite right, but anyway, if you can't pay it back, you shouldn't be borrowing money, because the principle of borrowing money is that it's dependent on a return and a margin. If you can't see how that's ever going to work within that particular part of the business, then chances are loan finance isn't going to be the right way to go. Or it may be that you need a combination of grant and loan, or something else. So it's not a straightforward area of work. It's complicated, and there's all sorts of factors and things that happen in life that are out of your control. So external factors and what that might do to your plan are all, anything can happen. And so even the best laid plans sometimes go wrong, because you just can't predict the future.
Yeah.
So it's complicated and interesting, and I love it because it's a constant challenge. And running Creative United is one of those challenges. How do we make our business work? How do we grow what we're doing so that we can help more artists, but we can also build up the capacity in the team and within our reserves to overcome the challenges of things going wrong? Sometimes things go wrong, and in all businesses. So I have to be, as chief executive, I have to be prepared for things not going to plan, and that means having enough in the war chest to sort of see us through those challenges. And it's fascinating.
It sounds like you revel in that challenge.
Yeah, I do. And like I said, I'm hugely admiring of almost every business owner I come into contact with, every artist. I am hugely admiring of their ability to make stuff happen, and sometimes to make stuff happen in the most challenging of circumstances.
Yeah.
They go, yeah, we're going to make this piece of work, and we're going to succeed. And that confidence actually in their own creative power is the best bit. And all of the other things, I wouldn't say they're formulaic, but they are quantifiable components that you can consider and put together in order to form a plan. Most things are within business can be broken down into understandable bits, whereas the creative process and where does that content come from and how to realise that is the magic bit. So I'm always just inspired by the magic, and I want to then apply the modules.
Sure.
I want to hand over those modules and go, okay, guys, right, have you considered this? What if? It's always the best question. What if?
Yeah.
Test your assumptions, because
Very big
if
lesson.
you haven't fully tested your assumptions and gone through the what ifs, you might end up with an unexpected and bad situation. And sometimes the what ifs are good, you know, positive ones.
Yeah.
What if so-and-so sees or hears this?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But
also
then
you need to be prepared for that situation.
You do.
Yeah.
And then that becomes an objective. That's an ambition. Okay, what if so-and-so heard this?
Yeah.
If they did, I think they might unlock this door for me. And then you can become quite focused on achieving that, making sure they hear it or see it, or, you know.
Very good point.
So the what ifs, you need to look at the negatives as well as the positives, and then you need to just get on with it and do it.
Yes. Very big lesson. Just do it. Jump in. I mean, that's what we did with this podcast. We had the idea. It was like, we don't know how to do it. Let's just jump in and do it and learn as we go.
Got to start.
That's it. You just got to jump in. It must be really grounding, I suppose, and also it will probably help you think out of the box constantly if you're working with so many different kinds of creatives in so many different unique situations. And working out how to apply those modules to their situation. That must keep you on your toes in terms of how you run Creative United as well.
Yes, and as I said, we are a business as well. So we have to live by our own advice, which I think is the very best discipline.
Yeah.
You know, what do they say? Don't do as I say as I do, something like that.
Do as I do.
I don't know. I've got that all wrong. But don't dish out advice to people and not take your own advice too. You've got to be living it, experiencing those challenges, learning from those things like everyone else. It's no good to be complacent or to say, oh yeah, we know what to do. We're all right, you know. And so every day that I go into work, I'm contending with many challenges and good stuff and bad stuff. Fortunately, there's usually more good stuff than bad stuff, but sometimes it's like, oh my word, you know, this overwhelming thing happens. And one of the things I've really learned in the last few years is the challenge of managing people. Actually, is the people are the business. You've got to look after the people, because this goes back to what I was saying about creatives being the kind of the kernel of the creative process, and there's only one of you. So important to recognise that no matter how energetic, passionate, hard-working you are, there's a limit to what you can personally do. And so you've got to have other people around you that you can delegate to, that you can trust, that can allow you to take a step back, have a break. You know, that is really, really important, no matter what kind of business you're in, or what kind of practice you're involved with. And the challenge of effectively managing and building a team who are all aligned with the same mission and who are all supported to be their best selves as much of the time as possible, and who you can reward and celebrate their achievements together and individually. And these things are so important, and sometimes it's very hard to make space for that when your brain is really kind of overtaken by the business challenge, you know. But if you, at your peril, you forget that the people are in the room with you and that you're all living that together. Yeah. You know, so all in the trenches together. All in the trenches. You know, and I guess that sort of shows again how much people matter to me. I hate working from home because I'm on my own. You know, I do work from home one day a week usually, but I really miss being in the room with everyone else and feeling what's happening and hearing what's happening and responding to. So it's almost like you found your level of performance that you. Oh, I love that. Up. Yeah, that's really nice. Thank you. I think that's it. And I do get a buzz from performing as part of that team, leading that team, and being part. That's my cast and crew. There they are. Yeah. That's amazing. Nice. That's amazing. How difficult is it because obviously teams change a lot. Life happens and people
are in a job for a while and then they're not. How difficult is it to keep that chemistry whilst succeeding in your business objectives?
I think it is really hard. I think these days young people don't have that sense of staying in a job for a very long time. They're looking to change or expecting to change jobs really quite regularly. You do 18 months somewhere and you move on, and that wasn't my experience. So my career has really fallen into three big segments. There was the 10 years or 8 years that I spent at Paintings in Hospitals, and then 10 years at the Arts Council, or maybe it was the other way around, 10 years anyway, blocks of 10, really. Of 10, yeah. So 10 years in one, 10 in another, and I've been now running Creative United for nearly 6 years. So that longevity and really staying with something for long enough to explore and test and fail and start again and have another go and succeed, and that's been my experience. And I suppose that rather naively, it often makes me a little sad when people go so quickly. I'm like, but we've just started.
I've only just
got to the point where I think we're really clicking and we understand each other, and you're doing such a great job. But then part of me obviously realises that life is for living and experience is everything, and people want to move on and do something else.
Yeah. Having
said that, I'm extremely fortunate that I've got a number of people in my team who've worked with me for a very long time, and I rely on them enormously, and that knowledge and shared history that we have together, we draw on that every day. Do you remember the time when? Right. You know, these people have been around long enough to have lived through a crisis and seen the success of their efforts, and you know that. And then for the people who are newer, who might be in the middle of a crisis, all they can see is the crisis.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's hard. So I mourn the fact that sometimes people go quicker than I'd like them to, and then the whole team has to adjust. But then you have the joy of recruitment. I absolutely love meeting new people and imagining what they could bring to the team.
Yeah.
And then if you get the right person, it's fantastic, because suddenly you've got that extra ingredient, and
it might be something you didn't expect as well.
Completely. So we have had a lot of people coming and going, and for good reasons and for less good reasons. But if you're lucky, you find a few people in the mix who are in there for the longer term, and then you can really build with them, and and then you can let them go when you've built something that's really kind of got some staying power, and then they're yours forever in a funny way. So when I think back on my career, just about now, I think I've stopped saying we when I talk about Paintings in Hospitals. So it's taken me 20 years to stop referring to the charity as, oh, well, we did this. It's not me anymore. Yeah. I mean, I left a long time ago. 15 more years ago I left, and still it's kind of here. Yeah. You know, it's me. And that's really nice, because when you leave an organisation but you still feel completely connected, it's family, and I've tried very hard actually to make sure that everyone that's come through Creative United and moved on to something new still feel like family. And occasionally we get everyone back together, and we celebrate together, and our success is their success, because everyone has a part to play.
Awesome. What are your most memorable projects that you've worked on within Creative United?
Memorable. We've done such a lot. We do such a lot all the time. We have recently just finished a program called Prosper, which was just a year-long business support program. And that was really interesting, because we had to design, launch, deliver, and report on it all within a 16 month cycle. So that's been a really interesting business challenge.
Was that report into the Arts Council?
Yeah, and involving lots of other funders. So that's maybe not the most interesting example. One of the things that we did, which was really good fun, a few years ago now, 5 years ago, was we celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Own Art Scheme.
Oh, okay.
And we commissioned a new piece of work by Jeremy Deller, and that piece of work was a digital piece of work. It was an animation, actually, a video animation, and we launched it and issued it as a free piece of artwork that you could download. So what we wanted to do in celebrating the 10th anniversary is to create, I don't know how many we issued in the end, 10,000 new art buyers or art collectors by giving them a piece of work by Jeremy Deller that then maybe that would inspire them to go and buy something else. So that was really nice. So we've done some really great projects where we've commissioned people to do things, where we've been able to celebrate. We did it was the year after, maybe we did a pop-up shop in Piccadilly Circus. That was fun. with art on the underground, and we've done so much, done really, really interesting things. And I'm proud of all of them. That always interesting.
Yeah, cool. I was going to say, So yeah, what are some mistakes that you see creatives make constantly that are avoidable that you could tell our audience about, and maybe some that you've made yourself as well?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most common mistakes is being overconfident in the response to the work. So this sort of goes back to testing assumptions. So very confident in the ability to produce the work or produce the realise the concept, but not totally thinking through how hard it is to find an audience. So my biggest mistake, I don't like to think of it like that, but my greatest learning experience, that's a better way of putting it. Yeah. For years and years, I had this notion that there was an opportunity to develop a program that encouraged more people to get involved in arts and culture. And it started out as an idea off the back of the Own Art Scheme, because in order to use the Own Art Scheme, you need to have decided to buy a piece of art. But what if you hadn't decided yet? How do we get you across the threshold? How do we get you to consider buying? And I had this idea that maybe some kind of voucher system would be a way of inspiring people to explore the arts that perhaps was not familiar. Anyway, that idea, that concept, then when we set up Creative United, I had an opportunity to pilot something, and that became Arts Card, which was I like to put it in these terms, the UK's first employee benefits scheme that was focused exclusively on arts, culture and creativity.
Oh, wow.
Amazing. It's still a great concept, by the way, and don't let anyone steal it. But anyway, I was lucky enough to have a chance to realise that concept and to pilot it for a year. And my biggest mistake was not really working the numbers through in terms of audience reach. So,
did you overestimate?
No, what I underestimated, because what needed to happen was there's always a ratio. So if you're running a membership scheme and you've got 1,000 members who each pay you £100 to be a member, that creates some resource, and the cost of delivering the service to those members will be X per member. So the value of the benefits that you structure will let's say the annual value of the benefits is £50, but they pay £100 to have access. But not everyone will take up the benefits. So you have this I think in the industry they call it breakage. Well, certainly in the voucher industry they call it breakage. So it's the difference between the value of the upfront spend and the redemption of the voucher or the good. So you build that member offer based on an assumption that only a percentage of your member base will use 100% of the value. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
So it's a sort of similar thing, is that when I was working through the numbers, I didn't really get to the bottom of how many people would you need to sign up to a benefit scheme of that kind in order to transact X number of sales on a daily, monthly, annual basis. So you'd have to be a very, very dedicated arts attender to use your employee benefit card once a month.
Yeah, exactly.
It turns out, and I think about my own engagement with the arts, and these days I probably do go to 2 or 3 things a month, but probably most of those are through work and not requiring me to pay. So I will experience, I'll go to something, but I'm perhaps not actually making a purchase. So I did happen to go to the theatre last night and I bought a ticket, and I haven't been to see a play for a couple of months, actually, maybe 3 months. So the frequency with which I engage in the arts is maybe I go to the theatre 2 or 3 times a year, and maybe I pay to go and see an exhibition similar, 2 or 3. And I would consider myself to be a highly engaged arts person.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you look at the population that we were trying to attract into this project. So, the workforce of a large company or of a local authority or of a healthcare trust. They're all busy people. They're all doing a job. They've all got stuff going on in their lives. And so what are the ratios that you need to work out between the total population base who need to sign up in order for you to see X number of interactions, and that includes people just browsing who don't actually convert, and how many of the browsers will then convert into a sale?
Yeah.
And those sales, if you're working with a network of arts organisations actually offering the opportunities or the tickets or whatever, each one of those suppliers wants to see customers. And if you're working with 50 suppliers, you've got to be pushing through a whole load of browsers to convert into transactions across a very mixed base. And what I hadn't worked out, this is a long story for my biggest mistake, but bear with me. What I hadn't worked out was the ratios. So the number of people in the funnel that you'd need in order to deliver a return on investment for the suppliers at the other end. Because their expectation should be that if they're part of that scheme, they'll see a regular throughput of at least X number of customers per week or per month they wouldn't have otherwise seen. So for that particular pilot project, what I got some assumptions wrong, and I got my ratios wrong, and so we weren't able to demonstrate proof of concept during that pilot phase because I'd got some bits structurally wrong. But it's still a great concept, and I'm hoping that we can resurrect it in some form, but we've had to just put it on ice for now. But it's so disappointing when you have a great idea and you really want to realise it.
Of course, yeah. And
I think for many, many creative people, they're frustrated by the fact that the work is so good and has such a lot of value, but perhaps they can't realise the audience that's needed in order to, well, I hesitate to say validate, but there is that kind of, the recognition of quality often is, the proof of the pudding is, do people want it? Do people value it? And having a few people come and see it and enjoy it isn't enough. You need to be able to kind of show that it had impact and reached the right people. And I think too often people underestimate just how hard it is, particularly in a city like London with so much going on. How do we choose what to go and see? Only so many hours in the day. It's hard.
Yeah. That's a really good lesson that I'm sure you took into your next chapter.
I have. I will never forget it. You know, when the bad stuff happens, if you can process it, if you can get rid of the bad feeling and move beyond that and just reflect on what you learned, that's. But I did feel really bad for a long time. I mourned that project.
Yeah.
And my board was kind enough to give me a few months to sort of get over it. They were like, okay, they let me down gently. They did say to me, "You're going to have to let this go," and I went, "Not yet, not yet." And then
it's going to work. It's going to work.
And then they said, "Yeah, you're going to have to let it go," and I did have to let it go. But as you can tell, I haven't forgotten any of it. It's a very real memory, and I think we can. I think we can go back to it. I hope we will.
Yeah, and you've got the benefit of knowing how it went the first time.
Exactly. I won't do that again. I won't make the same mistake.
There you go. There you go. Awesome. So just going back, if you could go back to when you was in year 11.
Which is how old?
Which is 15, 16.
15, 16.
So last day of year 11, so probably 16, unless you're born in August.
Last day of my GCSEs.
Yes, your GCSEs. If you could go back and give yourself some advice, what would you tell yourself?
I think I would tell myself to be more confident about the things that I enjoy and to do them more. If you don't worry about other people's expectations, do the things that you enjoy and that you're good at, but do the things that you enjoy, because there's probably a reason why you enjoy it, and confidence is a terrible thing. Lack of confidence can really stop you doing stuff, which to someone who doesn't feel that barrier, they can't understand. Why don't you do more of that? You're so good at it. But that confidence is a weird thing, and it quite often, our self-consciousness gets in the way, our worry about other people's opinions. And I think I was a funny mixture of being pretty extrovert and confident, but also really not confident enough about pursuing the things that I knew I enjoyed. I was maybe a bit embarrassed that I enjoyed, I don't know, being on stage so much, or something. Something got in the way and made me question whether it was I should be doing that, and maybe I should do something else. So do the things you enjoy to the greatest extent that you can, and I think that's what I'd say to myself.
Yeah,
I think so. I don't know. I think, and I don't think I made bad decisions. I just think I lacked a bit of confidence, and I'd tell myself to have a bit more.
Beautiful. Do you think where did that come from? Because your mum and aunt and grandmother are doing that, or in the art? Oh, sorry, like acting.
Yeah, no,
was it like a comparison thing? Or?
No, it wasn't, because actually by the time I was 16, my mum and my aunt they did their acting when they were very young, and they didn't pursue it into adulthood really. I mean, I think my mum, last time she did any acting, she was probably about 20 years old, so a long time ago. But it wasn't comparison, it was I don't know. I really don't know actually where it came from. But we all carry things around with us that that little kind of voice that says, absolutely, "Are you sure?" or someone else would do that better, or stick with what you know, or go the easy route, or I don't know.
Sometimes it could be your own value system as well. It might even be like an external factor, but it's like, for example, growing up singing, Michael Jackson's the biggest. So I would say, well, if you're not going to be that, then there's no point in doing that. So then that's the idea that kind of whispers to you over time. And when you get to the stage where you're like, should I pursue this or not? And it's like that voice has got somewhat louder.
I think that's really interesting, and I'm absolutely sure there was a bit of that. Unless you're going to be the best at this, why do it? And that doubt that I could really be a great artist got in the way.
Yeah.
And instead of just saying it's something that you enjoy and you have some ability, explore that and don't try and, you know, fast track yourself into some kind of status of best or better, or, you know, it doesn't matter. What's important is that you produce the work. And I do think that that's an interesting example. I probably had a bit of that, thinking I don't think I can be a great artist, so maybe I should do something else.
Yeah. I think a lot of people will go through that. It's very valuable that you've said that. I mean, the reason we asked that question is so people that are around that age can utilise it as a bit of a shortcut if they listen and act on it.
Yeah.
And hopefully they do, because there's a lot of great creatives that are giving those lessons.
Yeah, so. And the work that we produce when we're starting out and we're imperfect. I look back at a lot of the art that I did when I was 15. I've still got it. I've got loads of my stuff, the stuff from when I was at school. Yeah. And I've even got, you know, I said at the beginning that when I left primary school, a teacher told me to finish that drawing. You know what? I never did. But I've got the unfinished drawing.
Wow.
Yeah, so I held on to all that stuff. And when I look at it now, when I look at the thing I produced when I was, 9 years old? And I'm like, oh, you know, I made a thing.
Yeah.
I made a lovely thing. And I didn't finish it, but I did at least nearly finish it.
Yeah.
And I've got those things as reminders of my younger creative self. And they're really useful reference points because you're always developing and growing as an artist. And so no matter whether you think what you're doing today is any good or not, still do it. Because in a year's time, you look back, or in 20 years' time, in my case, 30 years, 35 years' time, you'll look back and you'll go, oh, well, isn't that interesting? I was clearly trying to work through an idea there, and maybe I'll go back to that idea.
Yeah.
So it all has value, and it's the process of making that makes you a great artist in the end. Nobody wakes up and does their first thing and it's a work of genius. Maybe Mozart did, but he's an exception. Most of us need to hone our craft, and everything you produce on that journey has a value. And if you can hold on to bits of it and give yourself some perspective, and also some sense of achievement, because there's all of that to look at. There's all of that history and inspiration to look back at. It's a good thing.
That's beautiful. That's a really good lesson. Really good. Thank you so much. What one takeaway would you like our audience to have with regards to Creative United? And, well, not even just Creative United, just a takeaway.
I would like people to be inspired and understand the value of creativity in life and to make it part of their lives, whether that's professionally or just enjoying it as something that you engage with as an audience member or socially. The wonderful thing about the arts is that it's so diverse. I don't think there's many people in the world for whom music has no meaning or impact. There'll be some, at some level, it will be meaningful. Music's a wonderful, powerful way of connecting people and infusing memories. I love the fact that a piece of music can just take you instantly, like a smell actually as well. You know, our senses are there for a reason. And so I would just say to everyone is that the arts and creativity matter, and they matter a lot, and they matter very much when you're growing up, that you develop a sensitivity and a passion for expressing yourself creatively. And I think what Creative United is there to do, and what I hope we will succeed in doing, is making sure that people understand that this isn't just about an add-on or a nice to have. It's a really central part of being human. The art of creation is being human, and we need to really have that very visible and very supported. And I think in the world that we're in now, where industries are changing and the future of jobs are changing, and if we're to succeed individually and as a society, we need the creatives to.
That's it.
To build that for us.
It's the era of the creatives.
It is the era of the creatives. So I don't know. That's not a great take home, because that's just a ramble. But Creative United is about helping people make the arts and creativity part of their lives in some way, whether that's buying art, playing music, running a creative enterprise, contributing to your local community in an artistic way, or even in a non-artistic way, just contributing. I hope that we make a difference.
You are, and you will. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a really inspiring and informational. Well, that's a word now.
Informational is a word.
I think you told me that all words are made up.
Did I?
I think so.
I didn't. Well, I suppose there must be. Someone made them up at some point.
Exactly. There you go. So, informational episode. Where can people find yourself online and Creative United?
Yeah, so we're creativeunited.org.uk. You can find me personally on Twitter at stack_says, or Mary Alice Stack. And where else can one find Creative United? You just Google Creative United and things will appear. Yeah. And as I said, we're based at Somerset House in London, but we work across the UK and a little bit internationally as well. And awesome. Podcasts are global, so wherever you're listening, wherever you are in the world, do drop us a line.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys, for your ears for another episode. You can follow us on Instagram at For The Creators Podcast, on Twitter at @for_the creators. Please subscribe and review this episode. I'm sure you would have got a lot out of it. Share it with other creatives as well, as that helps the show grow and more people get value out of it. So once again, thanks, and thanks, Mary Alice, for being on.
Thank you.